Welcome, everybody. I'm going to add Daniel Stern from Netivyah in Israel. So please give me a second. All right. I'll take Daniel and drag him here. Okay, Daniel. Can you say something?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to those on the West Coast.
Well, great. We hear you very well. Um, I haven't posted for a number of days because I've been out of the state uh, in a conference and I got back yesterday. So I felt it would be right to make up for it and invite Daniel uh, to share some news with us today. But I want to kind of give an update on some of the things that I'm aware of, and then we'll kind of go to a question and answer. Comments are open as well, so please provide any comments. We can bring them on the screen and then try to answer questions that you might have through this live event. One of the things that I wanted to give an update on is the work that they're doing in Jerusalem. Daniel and the team have been receiving donations. Rosemary, glad you joined us. Good to see you. And they've been out already and making a difference with those donations, with the soldiers and the needs that they have. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this image that you shared with us?
Yes, this is a soldier from the one of the paratrooper commando units. Specifically, it is the unit that my colleague Neil is a part of, and they are right now receiving a drone that was contributed to them and that we sent down to them. Now, you might want to know what the drone is for. Well, you can probably, most of you can make guesses. But from what I understand, is that the drone, in combination with a sniper or someone with a bazooka, a rocket propelled RPG, a rocket propelled grenade, is very deadly. When the drone has thermal imaging, it's used to spot targets that are difficult to locate, and then they can be dealt with. What one soldier from a different unit that received one of our drones said is that it is a game changer.
Yeah, so I saw that Miriam joined and made a comment. Thank you as well. Really, the purpose of the drones is to save lives. So the drones are able to go in an area that a person would be in danger to use their eyes and sees what's happening. And the drones go and give us another point of view without endangering a person's life. So uh, the drones save lives at the end of the day for us, right?
Additionally, they have thermal imaging, which allows them from those high vantage points to get a lay of the land and where the enemies are spread out and so on.
Definitely. The next thing I kind of wanted to go over and share with you all is the Rafah border. And the Rafah border is the border that Israel has with Egypt in the Gaza Strip. It's a border that's mostly used for commerce, um, but it's now used for humanitarian aid coming in from the south border of Egypt and the Gaza Strip. It's also the border that uh, individuals are leaving the Gaza Strip. You might have heard on the news yesterday that the United States has struck a deal with Egypt and Israel and Gaza to release American citizens. I know the British are in an agreement to try to do the same. Uh,
I'll just update that unfortunately that deal did not go through yet, and it is still working out the kinks. But as of yet, they don't yet have an agreement to release the American hostages.
No, not the hostages. These are Gazan. These are dual citizenship Gazan people who have American citizenship as well that are leaving the Gaza Strip. I've
My apologies.
also I also heard that America is also prepared to arrive by the sea and evacuate American nationals that way from the Gaza Strip as well if the Egypt crossing is not sufficient. But what's kind of unique is Israel's asking for the citizens to move away from the areas that are being targeted. It doesn't necessarily mean they leave the country. It's either we're going to target the north, please move south, or we're going to target the east, please move west. But what we're hearing as well is that Hamas is holding their citizens hostage to an extent. And they're making it difficult and threatening the citizens not to leave the area as well. And they're being used as human shields, which is very sad. So, one thing you could pray for is the citizens in Gaza who are desiring to leave the area and are really being held back by Hamas. Pray for them to be able to overcome that challenge of being restricted from moving and leaving the area. So that's what's happening on the Gaza side. In contrast to that, we have what's happening in Sderot, which is a city on the northern side of the Gaza Strip on Israel. It's used to being pelted heavily by rockets during this time. And this is the mayor of Sderot, David Alon, and he's standing in a house that received a direct hit a couple of days ago is when I captured this clip. And what he's telling the citizens is because they're being shelled, he's telling them to remain in their homes and not leave. And he's telling the citizens that they will bring food, they will bring water, necessities that exist for the citizens will be delivered to the citizens by other volunteers and citizens and people of the city. So it's a huge contrast in the way that the citizens are viewed and being treated right now. But also pray for the citizens in Sderot and the other cities outside of the envelope of Gaza that are being targeted and also have a difficulty at this time. Israel has been targeting on average about 700 plus targets a day, a night in Gaza. So the Israel's bombardment is very, very strong, is very, very targeted, is very, very purposeful, and it's all for the purpose of preparing for a ground assault. And the images here that you see were taken by citizens who were driving down the highway in these areas and captured the training and the preparation of units to enter either the Gaza Strip or to sit in preparation. That person's praying there. Sit in preparation up north to prevent any northern incursion as well. We're averaging right now approximately a number of incursions a day from the north. Israel is responding back to that Most of the incursions are involving anti-tank missiles being shot at civilian structures and homes across the border,
as well as mortars.
as well as mortars. And it's a tit for tat. They do something and we respond to that action as well. Israel's not really desiring to go open up a full-fledged front at the north at this time. There's really two groups that we have that are enemies that are actively attacking us right now. You have Hamas in the Gaza Strip, but you also have Hamas up in Lebanon outside of Israel trying to have incursions. And you have Hezbollah, who is really a much larger force up in Lebanon, who's also letting us know they're there, but they're not taking full action at this time. Both of these groups are being subsidized and directed by Iran. But there is a difference between the two groups. One is armed, trained, and subsidized, and the other is armed, trained, subsidized, and directed at what they can do. So Hezbollah is directly, the actions that they take are directly approved and blessed, if you want to say, by Iran. And Hamas is more of a wild card. They're doing their own thing. That's kind of the interpretation that I heard in the news from some previous military officials, kind of defining the difference between the two. What do you have to say about that, Daniel?
I would say that it's unclear exactly how much direct influence Iran has over Hamas. They certainly are, direct chain of command over the Hezbollah. You mentioned, of course, the size differences. Hezbollah is a much better geared, larger organization, as you mentioned. But another important thing to remember is that the Hezbollah has just spent the last 10 years in heavy warfare in Syria and are very battle hardened and battle trained. It's a big difference. Hamas is a neighborhood bully, and Hezbollah is an army. And I'm not saying that underestimating the Hamas, because they certainly caught us with our pants down 9 days ago.
Definitely. But Israel's trying to avoid starting two events in the same time frame if they can. And I think Hezbollah is also looking and seeing how Israel reacts right now. And it's a warning both to them and to Iran on Israel's determination to not take it sitting quietly.
There's a lot of speculation that can be made regarding who's doing what and who's watching and who's making what plans. It could be that we will strike Hezbollah before they strike us, because there's a pretty high chance that if we actually get to the point that we all want to of toppling Hamas, that the Hezbollah, directed by Iran or even Iran itself, will weigh in, because losing the Hamas will be a big blow to Iran in their three directional strategy against Israel. And that's something they clearly would not want, and they will for sure be willing to involve the Hezbollah, and they might even involve themselves.
Correct. Their main hands on the ground, boots on the ground in Israel is Hamas. And that is their proxy. So we have a scenario where think of a pimp, or think of some type of mobster and a whole bunch of henchmen that do his dirty work. That's kind of the relationship. They don't want to lose all their henchmen doing the dirty work. They don't want to lose Hamas. It would be a huge, huge loss for Iran should that happen. And that's why this whole situation is complicated in its nature. And you have all these other countries involved. But at the end, the people that really are losing are the subjugated poor citizens in Gaza and the citizens in Israel who have to suffer the terrorist tactics and attacks as well. But there's an element of Hezbollah using Palestine, or even the Palestinian people, not necessarily the nation, but the people themselves are being abused. And we hope that things change for the better, for a future of peace and quiet. Watching these videos of the army preparing reminds me of preparing for the Lebanon War in the 80s. I was a young kid at the time. I was with Dad, and we were up north, and we saw all the tanks moving and preparing to enter. And this really has the same type of feeling to me of what it was back then.
Well, that's not surprising considering this is the worst escalation of violence in the Israel-Palestinian front since 1973.
Correct. So this is big stuff. This is really serious. People need to be praying and going in front of God and asking for His wisdom and mercy, because this is not a simple thing. America is having another ship. I forget what the name is in English. Noset Matosim.
Aircraft carrier.
And yeah, an aircraft, another secondary
There's
aircraft.
one already here, a second one on its way, and a third that they announced they were going to send. And let me remind you all that when one says aircraft carrier, you're talking about a floating army. It's not just the carrier. It's surrounded by 2 circles of ships around it, as well as submarines and 5,000 Marines and about 60 to 80 planes. It is an army.
Yes. So we hope that things don't escalate to that level, but Israel's prepared. America is prepared as well. I kind of want to switch us, Daniel, over to another view and kind of go to an interview mode, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Let me figure out where you are.
I'm here in Jerusalem.
No, I got to figure out how to pick your camera source here for me.
Hi, Beth.
Here you are, guest 1. All right, there you are.
I am number 1.
Yeah. So, this is excellent. And I don't know. It swapped cameras on me, but that's fine. And the names I got backwards. So, let's see.
It's like when you get a tattoo in a foreign language and you actually wrote hummus spelled backwards instead of something cool.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Well, you know what? I'm just going to turn off the names. It'll be less embarrassing that way.
It's never embarrassing. I mean, we're here online with our friends around the world, and they're with us. And for all they know, I could be wearing boxer shorts.
Correct. It's entertaining. How about we phrase it that way? So there's a couple of things that I wanted to kind of ask you about, and people may not even know about. Um, what a mighty staff we have at Netivyah, and people may not know how big Netivyah is. They obviously probably know uh, of the good works that we do, and our reputation is out there. But can you tell us practically how many people are working at Netivyah? Uh, what areas are they focusing on? So people have an idea.
Well, currently there's about 22,000. No, there's about eight. There's eight of us. We have one who works in bookkeeping, two working in media. Um, we have a couple who are working in pastoral positions as well as shepherding. There's myself, who basically makes sure that everyone else works. I'm the whip.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, there's Yuda, who is the director and the pastor, and besides your dad, who works tirelessly and endlessly, Yuda is our main content producer, pastor, and shepherd.
Okay. Um,
I hope that got to eight because I just said eight randomly.
how many people are working on in the food distribution that we have? How many people are tied up with that?
Well, generally we Chanoch, who I didn't mention, but he's our we call it, I guess, a groundskeeper. He makes sure that the building doesn't fall down around us. Does painting and fixing and organizing and cleaning and gardening and everything in. On Wednesdays, which is the main day for our food distribution, he's down handing out the food, and before that, he prepares. By the way, if any of you are in Israel and on Wednesday in Jerusalem, feel free to stop by anytime from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. From 9 to 12, we prepare the bags of fruit and vegetables and set up. From 12 to 1, we take a short break and eat lunch together. And from 1 to 6 p.m., we're distributing food to the neediest families in Jerusalem, most of which are sent to us directly from social services. The municipal social services, they're the ones that filter out the neediest, that do the credit checks and the house visits. We don't want to have anything to do with that. As you know, we've been doing this for 25 years. There are a few families that come to us directly from the shepherds, pastors, and leaders of the congregations in the city. A few that come from specific organizations with their own social workers, like Israel Pro-Life. But the majority are sent directly from social services, and they are of Russian background, Ethiopian background, ultra-Orthodox, secular, single parents, Arabs, even Palestinians from Bethlehem. The works. We get them all, and we serve them with a smile on our face.
Thank you.
And in addition to Chanoch, with our staff member down there, in normal and relaxing times, there's usually an additional staff member for a couple of hours here and there, and the rest is manned by wonderful volunteers. Currently, there's a couple from China that have been coming every week for the last 3 months. And one young man from Germany. So he's making Aliyah to Israel, and I won't be able to say he's German anymore because he's in 2 weeks getting married to a nice Israeli girl, and then we'll be living in Israel.
We also have the Houses for Healing, right? Tell us about what's happening with that ministry right now in those places that we have.
Houses for Healing is a project where we've got apartments for patients of the largest hospital in Jerusalem and one of the best in the world, the Hadassah and Karem Hospital, and if needed, also the Shaarei Tzedek Hospital, which is relatively near. But the apartments are right near the hospital, and patients who require boarding based on the hospital social workers or their chief doctors, because sometimes it's the doctor who decides because it can relate to what treatment they'll choose to give the patient. We can provide housing for people. For example, we just recently had a soldier from Kiryat Shmona, all the way in the north, a young man who was battling cancer, and he and his mother came and stayed in the apartment free of charge for a period of about 6 weeks, and were greatly blessed by the wonderful volunteers that spend time with them, have meals with them, and we've had quite a few people stay in these apartments, and each and every one of them has reported how amazing it was, how touched they were, and in conversation with them, they would always bring up how they know a Messianic Jew and they're all such wonderful people, and so on and so forth. In other words, it's really connecting them with a positive experience given to them by Messianic Jews. And right now, there is a family from Kurdistan in the apartment who's brought here by our dear friend and partner, Jonathan Miles, to have life-saving treatment on their baby, heart surgery. And additionally, there is a oncological patient, a cancer patient from Herzliya, who will be staying at the apartment until about the 20th of November. So that is the situation there, and it's an amazing project that we just started this year.
Correct. And when we have an opening in these apartments, they're also available to be used for any of the families that have been affected by their homes shelled and destroyed in the South. I know there was a scenario where we offered some housing with friends that we know, for the lady that probably you've seen on the news, the lady that was carrying a 9-month-old and a 4-year-old. The 4-year-old was shot in the foot, and they were left to crawl back to Israel on their own recognizance. Can you tell us something? Most people think that those are her children, but can you give us some insight about what you know about that story?
All right. Well, first of all, I was unaware of that story until a couple days ago. I, like many of you, was duped by Palestinian propaganda when I saw a report that said, look how wonderful we are, look how well we treat people. We just released a mother and her 2 children who were hostages in Gaza. And it will shortly, you will see it soon on Al Jazeera, which, I might add, is a propaganda channel full of lies. Turns out that the footage that was released and broadcast nonstop to show how wonderful the Hamas is was footage not from 2 days ago, but rather from the first Saturday, a week, 9 days ago, when this whole horrible, horrible thing happened. And they had, as Barry said, wounded these children, wounded this woman. They dragged them to the border with Gaza, and then, for reasons unknown to me and probably to most people, chose to release them, possibly, and filmed it. It probably was to have that propaganda material for later when they needed it. But it turns out that the woman was not the mother of the children, but rather a neighbor who the children were staying with. The mother of those children is still unaccounted for, is still MIA. The father was in Israel at the time and is in Israel at this time, and he and his 2 children, of course, they've all heavily traumatized, were going to come up to Jerusalem to one of the houses related to us, but in the end chose a different place to be in. And of course, they are receiving considerable therapy.
Just to kind of give everyone a metric of those that have been murdered in Israel, the metric is, bodies recovered are about 1,100 so far. Out of that, approximately 900 are civilians, women, children, uh, young boys, right? Non serving individuals, and
I'll
approximately
correct you that the bodies recovered are at 1350,
okay,
maybe even 1400 by now.
and the soldier numbers, right, is in the 2 to 300 range. It's a
Correct.
much smaller number, and about 100 plus are identified as being kidnapped. Um,
Mike, 155 is the current count given by the Army about half an hour ago, maybe an
okay.
hour of being kidnapped. But I also want to point out that the Hamas's attacks were to very specific locations. It wasn't random. And 5 of those locations were army outposts, and that's where the majority of the military casualties were. And the other 20 some locations were to civilian locations, and that is where the vast majority of the casualties were civilian, and they were targeted, and it was intentional, and they were instructed to kill as many as they could of all ages and genders.
One of the things I think people may not know, but the Israeli population is not armed like we are in the United States. The right to bear arms is accessible significantly in the United States. And in Israel, it's mostly people that are in service, either in police, either in military, right? But you are within some government framework of service that you are eligible to be responsible for a firearm.
That is correct. It's very limited, which is not what people think, but in fact, you need to live in a specific dangerous place or work in a dangerous place. And also, you will have need to have extensive military training or have reached a certain military rank in order to bear arms. And the extensive military training is far more than the mandatory 3 year service. It's serving in a combat capacity.
So you understand that when the police stations were targeted, when the army units were targeted, it left people defenseless and they were just slaughtered. There's no other.
More than that, in the past, each of the settlements had a civilian combat unit, preparation unit, with around 20 assault rifles and the people trained to use it. In recent years, the army, due to a fear of having those weapons stolen, had gathered up those weapons so that all of these settlements right on the border of the Gaza Strip, what's known as the Gaza periphery, had between 2 and 6 weapons. And they were facing off against squads of 25, 50, 75 armed Hamas commandos, armed to the teeth with grenades, assault rifles, rocket propelled grenades. There was no way. And the stories of bravery that do come out are inspiring and amazing.
People gave their lives. People gave their
Many.
lives. Um, whew. So, what can you all do? Y'all can
Are you
pray.
asking me or are you
No,
about to
no,
tell them?
I'm telling them. What can you all do? One is pray. On the Netivyah USA site, we're going to set a weekly prayer challenge for you. Beth already sent the first one prior to this live stream, and we want it to be a two-way conversation. I also want our live streams to be two-way conversations. So the people that are online, if there is an encouraging statement you want to put in the comments, please put it. I'll share it on screen here before we close this live stream.
Or
Is
if you
it?
have any questions, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, you have questions as well. but also for people in Israel, people outside of America, in America. The Facebook groups, please engage with us and with other fellow believers around the world. It's a community, so be part of that community.
Additional to Bess's weekly challenge, which is a great idea, I want to mention that on the Netivyah page, we've put a list of all of the believer soldiers that we know that have been called up, and you can read their names and pray for them by name.
Yes, I didn't know that. We will also post that link here as well. That's awesome. That's great.
And there's a big list. On Saturday at the congregation, we read out that list. It's about 70 soldiers. We read them by name and prayed for them.
The second thing that I ask is that you all like the Netivyah Israel page, the Netivyah USA page, that you all follow, share it. The same for our YouTube channels. Subscribe, share it, get the word out, because we have a unique perspective living in Israel and lived in Israel. We have a perspective that I would say is authentic and is close to the heartbeat of what's happening in the country, especially among the Messianic believers in the communities of Messianic believers in Israel as well.
Additionally, you don't know who you know, who your friends are, who they know, who we can reach out to. And we don't know how our sharing will influence and will affect this reality. So share it.
Please do. With sharing and getting the word out, we have a great blessing in front of us. We have a matching challenge donation that's began as of Friday, but I'm only getting to it now. But in this next short period of time, let's say the next couple of weeks, if we can reach at least $50,000 in donations, then we have a donor that will contribute, match, double your money, double your dollars, up to
Oh, wow.
50,000
That's
on his
amazing.
part. So please make a difference. The needs are great now. The needs later on will be even greater. Go ahead.
In this short conversation, we haven't gone into all the needs, and there are the guys who were recruited. You have to understand the Army provides gear for the soldiers that are on staff currently, but which is 170,000 soldiers in all fields, logistics, human resources, and so on, not just combat. We just called up 360,000 reserves, the majority of them for combat. What that means is the combat part of the Army has gone up by about 6 times its normal amount. Now, those guys are not geared. It sounds crazy. We're supposedly the strongest army in the Middle East and so on and so forth, but those guys don't have helmets, don't have Kevlar vests. They came from their houses without boxer shorts, socks, shirts. You think I'm joking, but I'm serious. These are the things that are in high demand. Toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, face towels. It sounds like we're a banana republic, but these guys who came in a moment's notice, left their synagogue and went to fight, came with nothing, and we are their support. We are the wind beneath their wings, to quote a song, the wind in their sails, and we are pushing them forward, and we are with them, and we need to support them.
definitely. So, where do you find support? You can find it in three places. And there's really two sources for support. There is directly to Israel. Most of the international people that don't need a U.S. tax deduction are directly donating to the PayPal and either wiring information in Israel. And if you need a tax donation to 501c3 registered charity in the United States, you can donate to Netivyah USA. That's really the distinction between our organizations. You can find on our Facebook page a link and a QR code to scan. On the Netivyah Facebook page, you can find a link and a place to scan. On the Netivyah webpage, netivyah.org, there is a donation or a giving link. And when you go to that page, there's buttons at the bottom all the way, just General Fund for Israel from the USA donation. And you can either do the At War or the General Fund in Israel as well. Links if you want to do it directly to Israel. So reach out.
And
Go
more
ahead.
than that, I just want to say that even though Barry has a matching challenge by a very generous donor and we need funds to buy stuff, it's more important to me that you share our news and reach other people. And if you want to contribute, that's wonderful. And if you want to contribute, there's also many other great places to contribute, like the medical organization, MADA, and others, and do what you feel called to do and what's on your heart. But share. We want to reach more people, and we want Israel to get the political and spiritual support that it needs.
Correct. I'm going to also share with you, if you're not familiar with the Netivyah website, the Netivyah website is netivyah.org. You can find that website directly. At the end of this podcast, I'll have it for a minute, the QR code for Netivyah USA. You can always pause this, come back to this video, and we appreciate you being with us. Please share our media sources. Engage with us. We will do our best to engage with you. I kind of want to recognize a couple of people that I'm going to swap for a second, Daniel, but a couple of people that are put comments up. Rosemary Hicks says, "How can I help from the USA?" Rosemary, if you have questions, please reach out to us. Miriam is also recognizing and saying thank you, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the love for us and love for Israel and love for God. Daniel, is there anything else that you want to cover before we close down this live stream?
Listen, there's so much more in the geopolitical and in the speculative, and how did the Israel intelligence and armies fail so miserably, and what could the future hold, and what could the situation look after the ground assault into Gaza, and so on and so forth. So those should get their own dedicated time.
So,
But I will just share one tiny little factoid, which is that through a contact in Arizona, I was made aware of an article in a local paper of the city that that person lives, which is that for the first time since 1989, 34 years ago, the United States did drills on air-to-air combat against the F-5. Now, most people are not airplane buffs like you, Barry, and recognize only the F-15, the F-16, maybe the F-22 stealth bomber, the F-34. But the F-5 is a plane that is used by four aircraft, air forces in the world: the United States, China, North Korea, and Iran. And the last time that these drills at simulating combat against F-5 happened in 1989, 34 years ago, there were 200 Israeli Air Force personnel living on that base where it happened. So if you connect those dots, it's getting rather interesting in the air.
It sure is. Again, thank you, everybody. We should be double streaming this to YouTube, and I'll validate that it's there as well at the end. God bless you all. I'm going to share the end card for you here. You can scan that with your phones, and it will pop up a PayPal page to accept donations. We thank you. We thank you for joining us. Please provide comments on what you'd like to hear. What would you like us to cover? I'm so happy that Daniel joined us, and we will do joint sessions like this again. Dad is currently in Brazil, and when he gets back for a couple, 2-3 days, in about a week, he will be heading off to India. So
I just want to point out, since I've had a lot of people asking me about Joe, that Joe and Marcia and the whole family is very safe and nowhere near anything that can cause them harm in the context of this conflict.
correct. Marsha's with us here in the United States. Dad's in Brazil, and he'll be heading out to India as well later on in the month. So God bless you all. It's gone far longer than I thought it would go.
That's because it was better. And just so you know, guys, this was completely spontaneous. Barry and I scheduled this about 4 hours ago. So if you want more, we're glad to give it to you.
Let us know. Let us know. God bless you all. Shalom. Y'all have
Shalom.
a blessed week. Bye bye.